All right, welcome to another week of Network Roundtable. And wow, I think that's the first time in like 4 weeks I actually got the name of the show right. Ta-da! Ta-da! Yeah, I'd clap if I had that app up, but I don't. So yeah, our show is about struggle, and well, had a little bit of that today. I had a hard time getting the tech right, and couldn't even get my second computer up. So we've got an interesting connection here. This is how we're going to show off James when it's his turn to talk. So there you go. Hi, James.
Hello, people.
There you go. And then back over to me, and yeah. I'll probably do a How I Did That show sometime. So we have an awesome guest with us. I'm really excited. She was the first one into the green room today, so I got about 10 minutes alone with her before everybody else joined in, which was awesome. And I've never gotten to hang out with her, so I'm really glad it was like that kind of uninterrupted time. Here is Jessica Dewell.
Yay!
Girl.
I like that. That's fun. Thank you.
Jessica, tell us about yourself. By the way, I got to say, seeing that I have 2 D's in my name, I'm totally geeking out about that D in front of Dewell. Is that your actual hand signature, or is that a letter style?
You know, I actually did turn my handwriting into a font, but it doesn't show up on graphics very well of any size. So it is not my actual font. I was very sad that I couldn't use it, but I did try.
Use a sharper pen or a wider pen.
A wider, yeah.
Yeah. But that D right there is, as a lover of D's, I'm just saying, that's a really cool name.
I've always been partial to S because there used to be 3 in my name. Now there's just 2 since I've been married for so long. I don't go by my maiden name anymore. And I lost an S. I was very sad, but I love big S's. So yeah, I'll send you the font. Let me make a note about that.
Okay, yeah. Geeking out. Font.
Yeah, you can have the font. I'm sure it's free because those are the only fonts I tend to download. I buy a lot of things, not font.
Yeah.
Not font. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's not free, really? Just saying. I'm not a graphic designer, and hey, graphic designers out there, like when you're setting up branding for my businesses, don't pick styles that I have to buy. Just saying. Okay, so there's my break for
free fonts. Yeah. So I'm Jess. I live outside of Seattle. I own a company called Red Direction. Personally, I am a purposer, and beyond the purposing, I very much love to listen, and I listen a lot, and I listen around what people say to really bring up and allow other things to come into a picture so that they can find the biggest and best use of their time and make sure that they're fully taking advantage of all of the gifts that they are bringing to their business, to their life, to their family, to their hobbies.
And I used to actually work for a company in the same town you live in.
In Woodinville?
Yes, I lived in Bellevue, and I worked for a roofing company as a salesman in Woodinville.
Nice.
Yeah, and we lived in Maple Valley.
Oh, cool. Wow. I'm so excited. It's like you guys are, anytime you come to visit, you have to let me know if you come back this direction. Maple Valley we've been here for 15 years, and Maple Valley has seriously grown up. Woodinville has seriously grown up. Bellevue has tons of construction. We actually moved to Woodinville about a year ago. We used to live in North Bend, out in the foothills of the Cascades. Yeah. Love it there. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and North Bend is definitely beautiful.
I'm from Bellingham.
Hey, you guys, this is awesome.
Yep, and we're all originally actually from the other Seattle, Vancouver. A lot like Seattle. It's kind of like you took Seattle and you blended it with San Francisco, and then you reduced the population.
Okay, Vancouver, Washington, right?
No, the real Vancouver.
Okay, when you said reduce the population, I didn't think that. I thought Vancouver was bigger than Seattle, so I got confused.
It is, but if you're adding Seattle and San Francisco together, then you've like got what, half of New York.
That's true.
Vancouver's not.
Silly me.
You got to keep up with the math.
I know.
Here.
And you know what? My math is so bad. I'm really liking the way you're doing math, Dennis. I'm going to try that.
Jess, that's why we keep Stephanie around.
I believe it. I completely believe it.
To do the math. All right, so the small business happy hour is off to a late but happy start. We also have a guest who we didn't promote him being here, kind of on purpose, because he's my business partner now and becoming a very good geek friend as well. Greg, I'm going to let you explain why you're here, even though I totally know.
All right, Dennis. I guess I'll start from before we actually met, and I was taking part of a domestic violence awareness walk called Walk a Mile in Her Shoes, and it's actually a worldwide walk, and this was the Orlando version. So it was held in downtown Orlando, and it was benefiting the Orlando or Central Florida area safe havens for survivors of domestic violence called Harbor House of Central Florida. And we got to know the people at Harbor House really well and their mission, and they had another upcoming event very soon after that that we also took part in, but it was at Walk a Mile where they encouraged men to wear high heels and walk a mile with, of course, signs and everything to raise awareness against domestic violence. And during that event, I had these, and I don't have them in here with me, unfortunately, but I had these probably about 4-inch heels, and very tall heels, and I did a little dance and got it on a GIF and put it up on Google Plus and about the event, and he messaged me one day and asked if I would be willing to auction the shoes and give all the proceeds to the Harbor House. And so we started talking about that, and really it's Dennis's brainchild, plus your charity, as you can see on my lower third here. We're really just trying to raise awareness right now to Harbor House. We're working on a project that we're auctioning off my shoes. Earlier in the week, Dennis also went ahead and got a pair of heels and walked a mile, against domestic violence as well. And we did that on a live HOA. Dennis has his shoes right there. And he's going to be auctioning them off as well. Kirk Sherrod also joined him and walked a mile as well. And we're going to have his shoes for auction. And right now, we've actually since launching this project earlier this week, we've already raised almost, I believe it's $300 of the $500 goal we set out to meet. And I think collectively, well, I don't know for a fact if collectively we paid about $30 or $35 for the shoes. So that's not bad. What a little bit of awareness and just telling people what Harbor House does will do. And they're really one of my favorite charities in Central Florida, having an on-site kennel, certified daycare, and secure facility for survivors of domestic violence. It's really a place where they can take their whole family to be safe, not just kids, but their pets as well, because anybody that has pets knows that they are part of the family as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Really exciting.
Yeah, and
Yeah, it's-
and
Go ahead.
oh, sorry, I was just gonna say, Dennis, if you want, we can put. There was a ton of good information. Didn't you guys, while you were doing the walk, do an interview with one of the people that actually work at Harbor House, and she gives all kinds of great information about the programs they have. We could maybe put that into the comments of this show so that people who didn't get a chance to see what Harbor House does would get more information about it.
Yep.
Yes.
We also had the executive director of Harbor House on the MIA Connect today, so today's MIA Connect also has a lot of great information about Harbor House that wasn't covered in the live mile walk. Yeah, I actually walked the mile during an HOA in high heels.
That was totally cool.
Well, thank you. Thank you, G.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the extra shoes, the ones that Kirk wore, I want to point this out. So, Greg's shoes, you're buying a piece of Google Plus history, right? I mean, those shoes got famous when Greg danced. That animated GIF, went crazy. So, you can actually have and put on your bookshelf a piece of Google Plus history. And then, of course, there's my shoes, which are also, I walked a mile in an HOA. But this is Google Plus history at its finest, because they're 2 sizes too small for Kirk, and he wore them anyway. And he walked a mile in them. And these are multi-purpose shoes. They were also the shoes that Cheryl Deuce married me in. So just think of the Google Plus history that exists in these shoes. They really deserve a nice honorary space in your bookshelf to show off your love of Google Plus. And so you can. We're putting in the feed the places where you can go and bid. There's 3 pictures, one of each one, and you just bid for them there, and then whoever the winner is going to, pay that money directly to Harbor House. So we're still raising money by auctioning off these beautiful shoes, and you can have a piece of Google Plus history. Don't you just want that? Say it.
It would be very cool, and I don't know if it works the same way it did for the walk, but maybe if you're the winner, there could be some prizes offered by the people who are auctioning the shoes.
Oh, maybe. We can work something like that out. By the way, a new thing came up. Mia is coming to Utah June 20th and 21st to do a charity fundraiser here in conjunction with Plus Your Charity. Mia is part of our new Plus Your Charity Power Team. If you want to get involved in Plus Your Charity, hit me up, Greg, Carolyn. We'd love to have more people join that power team. But Mia volunteered Greg without even talking about it, and Greg. Now, when I say Mia volunteered Greg, I'm not talking about Greg Trujillo. I'm talking about Greg Boshaw? Did I say that right? Anyway, Mia's Greg, okay? So Big Black Greg and Greg Trujillo are going to do a high-heel dance-off competition.
Oh, yes.
With music playing from the bandwidth. And if there's enough push for it, especially from maybe Rhonda, then you just might get 3 more jerky boys, or maybe even 4, involved in the high-heel dance. Just saying. It could be possibly. Kirk Sherrod, Dennis Deuce, Ryan Miner, and James, basically, our souls are all available for sale. So, whatever you pay, you can get one of us. Look at this guy. Can't you imagine him dancing in high-heel shoes?
Yes.
Yeah. So
what we need is, right?
That's right. That's right. So that's coming up June 21st. Watch for details. It'll be everywhere.
Okay,
Anyway.
where's now? Just because you haven't actually said the URL, what's the URL of where people can go donate, where they can find out more?
A question.
You know, it's not just a URL. There's a very specific place on Harbor House so
Okay.
that we're able to track that money as being from our donations. It's all going immediately to Harbor House, but it separates it so that it's easy for us to track that the money came from our event. So I think Carolyn's in the audience, and I'm going to shout out to my other team member, Carolyn. Can you get that link into the thread if you haven't done so already?
Cool.
Love you.
So she took one of my questions about whether if that link was still good for donations. But the other question I had was, if you want to get involved with Plus Your Charity, as you just suggested, does it all go to our Harbor House, or can we pick our own charity and try to get that moving just in a similar fashion?
Yes, so Plus Your Charity is actually going to be a service that we will provide to charities. We don't have all the details worked out right now. We're trying to prove how well the theory will work by just running it for a couple of charities. But the idea is that we can raise money and raise awareness all at the same time, using the skills that geeks like me and Greg and Carolyn possess. So yeah, that's what Plus Your Charity is, and it is, yes, about whatever that charity is. So when Mia comes here, we're actually not raising money for Harbor House. We might for the dance thing, but she's doing another thing. Tell me if this doesn't sound like a Mia hashtag. Mia's hashtag for the event she wants me to promote, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do it, but yeah, it's Mia pedals her happy ass for animals. So Mia's buying a bike from Kirk Sherrod, and she's going to ride the bike, and the money is going to a charity here in Utah that takes animals that are rescues, and then it trains them, and it does that in a really cool way. It puts them inside of the women's state penitentiary. These are lifers, and they are taught how to train animals, and they train these animals, and when they're finally trained in helping people with PTSD, then they are donated to vets who are struggling with PTSD. How freaking cool is this?
That's phenomenal.
Yeah, it costs the charity nothing to have these women do that training. If you were to get a professional trainer, it costs about $20,000 to train one animal. They spent the time training the women. Now the women have a purpose. It's just, I'm geeking out all over this charity.
It's helping on so many levels.
Oh, yeah, it's like multitasking on steroids. So, yeah, that's what Mia is pedaling her happy ass for.
I think it's great. I think it is going to be a very cool thing. And just for anyone who's watching, oh yes, and for anyone who's watching,
Thank you.
Carolyn did post the place where you can actually go and make your donations. So if you're wondering where to go to spend your money, it's in the comments.
Yep. So we'd love your support. It's an awesome cause, and at this point in time, Plus Your Charity is 100% is going to the charity. That will eventually, at some point in time, change. But right now, we're just trying to prove the theory, and in the process of proving the theory, it all goes to them.
Yay.
Yeah, which is great, and it's very funny that we talked about that because, you know me, segue time. It's
and now for something completely different.
But actually not that different. Actually not that different because we're trying to help people who are struggling, right?
Correct.
And, I think it fits nicely, even though we didn't plan it, it fits very nicely with the theme of today's show. So good job, Dennis, even though none of us knew it was coming.
Well, thank you very much. Okay. So we've spent a lot of the first half hour on Plus Your Charity, but I think we need to fairly quickly move through the two segments that are motivation and inspiration. And, you know, I'm going to pick on the boy to my left here first. So here you go. You're on. No, you're not on camera. Now you're on camera. And you know what? I'm even going to give you a special lower third all your own so you don't have to be Dennis for a while.
Oh, I want to be Dennis.
Well, you're not quite cool enough.
Wow.
So
At least we got it figured out.
like a well-oiled machine. That's how this works. Yeah. You see that, Jess?
Oh,
Exactly.
I was totally laughing at the "you're just not cool enough." I was like, wow.
So I'm sorry about that, dude. I love you.
Harsh.
I know you do.
Can I just say, look, no, look what I'm doing here.
Oh,
Oh, it's up there.
Hey, all right.
There's James. Hey,
I love
Yeah.
you.
Oh, look at that with the bear. Oh.
Aw.
okay. Well, I'm James Williams, Top Jimmy CPT. I'm the personal trainer and nutritionist amongst our group here, and I am to share words on how to relieve stress, and maybe a small little exercise as well. Today's words are about vice. And one good way to relieve stress is to ditch a vice. We all have them. And if you paid attention to those two sentences, I said ditch a vice, and we have them. So we all probably have multiple vices, and I want to stress that you only try to ditch one at a time, because trying to ditch multiple vices will just cause you more stress than it's worth, and that's the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish here. So my advice for the day is to try to ditch a vice. If you're a smoker, that's a number one. You've got to ditch that vice. And it just runs out from there. Whatever, you know, we all know what our vices are, and we got to ditch them. Ditch one at a time, though, again. And one way to kind of make yourself accountable when you're ditching your vice is share that with your friends and your family. Say, hey, I'm going to try to quit smoking if that's what it is, or whatever the case may be. Share that, because you'll become accountable. You'll have people that will be backing you up. If they see you with a pack of cigarettes, they'll say, hey, I thought you said you were going to ditch that, and it reinforces it for you. Or you may even say, I'm not going to take my pack of cigarettes over here. I told these people I'm going to ditch a vice, and it just helps you become accountable. So that is my stress relief topic of the day, and I'm going to give you one more quick exercise. Last week we did the
Stretching.
good morning type stretch, where deep breathing. And this one's a little bit similar. Again, we're going to put our thumbs and fingers together to create the energy pathway. I don't have a lot of room here, but again, you're going to spread your arms out so that oxygen can fill your lungs. And then we're just going to rotate our shoulders. Chin up, chest out. Rotate your shoulders forward. And when they're in the back there, really pinch your shoulder blades, really push them forward, really pinch your shoulder blades. And of course you're breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth if you weren't talking like I am. And then you're just going to reverse your action. Go backwards. Once again, when you're in the back position, pinch your shoulder blades. Okay, this does a couple things. This creates blood flow in this area here where you always have tension. We all do, especially if we're sitting at computers. It creates the blood flow that will relieve that tension. In addition to, it will create new blood flow, permanent blood flow there. If you do that regularly, your body will adjust and say, well, I need more blood flow there if he's going to be doing this all the time. And then you're naturally more relaxed there with that extra blood flow. Okay? That's my topic for the day. Thank you.
I gotta say, I could use more blood flow up there.
Thank you, James. That's great.
We're in a world where, you know, easily more than half of our jobs require sitting at a computer most of the day. I'm a lucky one. I don't have a job where I sit at the computer most of the day, but most of us do in these modern times, and we've got to figure out a way to counteract the effects of that, because it honestly is not good for you to be sitting at a desk in front of a screen all day. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Very cool.
Ta-da!
Hey, I'm in my Ogden Marathon shirt. I gotta promote myself. I got a marathon in the morning, full marathon, 26.2 miles. Got my shirt on. I'm ready to go.
And you'll be posting your time, of course, right? And photos and everything else?
Absolutely.
So circle this man up and give him love as he runs this thing. James Williams, circle him up. He's the man. Love him.
Yeah.
My
Good luck,
first of 4
James.
marathons.
Good luck, James.
Good luck.
That's
Great.
That's
Everybody's
impressive,
time.
man. Good for you.
All right. So now James became Dennis, and Dennis is going to become Dennis. See how that works? All right. There we go. So I just want to say, Jess, your partner in crime, Scott Scoencraft, is in the audience. They said 2014 would be the year of the HOA, plus your charity, #leading the way. Scott, thank you so much, man. That's awesome.
That's right.
And Scott,
Scott is in the
if
house.
you want to do the Scott treatment on anything that has to do with plus your charity, we would love to have you on our power team. Just saying. So, yeah, can't you imagine like the stuff from me walking and all those great crazy things done Scoencraft way? Holy cow. Anyway. All right. So, Sherry, our quote master. What do you
Yeah.
got for us?
I got 3 quotes.
Oh, boy.
Today. Yep. It's your lucky day. I figured struggle deserved some extra inspiration. So the first one is from Abraham Lincoln. The probability that we may fail in the struggle ought not to deter us from the support of a cause we believe to be just. And none of us would have gotten into these businesses if it wasn't a cause that we believed to be just, if it wasn't something important to us and something we believed in. That's why we started out on this venture in the first place. And so, you know, the thought that we might fail shouldn't even be part of the picture. It's something we believe in, and we're going to find a way through the struggle. Obviously, there will be struggle. And it sounds like this week there was a lot going around. But Napoleon Hill says, struggle is an opportunity. It's hard to look at it like that when you're in the middle of it. Sometimes it's easier when you're through it to look back and say, wow, I can see the benefit I received from working through that, or what I learned, or how I grew. But in the middle of it, it's hard. So I guess that's a challenge to try to shift the perspective even while you're going through it. What could I be learning? Why is this an opportunity for me? And then the last one is, whatever the struggle, continue the climb. It may only be one step to the summit. And that's Diane Westlake. And I love that because we've kind of talked about that idea before. You know, that you just never know how close you are to the tipping point. You just never know when it's just that one more day of effort that's going to shift things for you. And this actually reminds me of a story Dennis told me once, and maybe he will share it. But he loves Rubik's Cubes. And he has a story about what it takes to solve a Rubik's Cube and kind of how it relates to struggle. Will you share that, Dan?
How it relates to struggle? Well, to share that story, I've got to actually solve the cube. And I've never done that on an HOA because when I start solving a cube, I get a little bit sidetracked, so my speaking is not going to be as good as normal. But when you are, let's see, where'd that go? When you're solving the cube, you have to do it at kind of a step at a time. You build on things, and the first thing you want to do is you create a cross. And once you've created your cross on your given side, I solve to green. That's just my personal preference. Once you've created that cross, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to fill in those 4 corners. And quite honestly, Sherry, I'm not completely remembering exactly what the analogy was. I just know I've used this for multiple analogies. So,
well, I'll go with the analogy I remember then, if you don't remember it.
Okay. So the analogy, specifically the analogy, is going to be at that last part, right, where I solve the last 4 corners?
It's what happens right before.
Yeah, okay, great. I got it. Okay. So the next thing you solve the whole bottom so that you've got that all solved, and that's lining up with the 4 corners right here. The next thing that you're going to do after that is you're going to mess up completely, and you're going to look really stupid when you do because you did the wrong side. So the next thing you're going to do is you're going to do the lower, or the 2/3 marks, basically, so that you've got 2/3 of the cube solved. We're getting close here. And yes, it is true, I actually made Cheryl learn how to do this, and yes, that was a requirement to marry me. Okay, so 2/3 mark. Okay. Now you still got the whole top is all completely messed up. So we've got to get that solved, and let's see, that's...
Can I just say, Dennis, that woman really loves you. I knew she did before, but if you made her solve the Rubik's Cube before you would marry her, that's true love, man.
She is absolutely the most amazing woman that ever lived, and that's just a fact.
She is amazing, for sure.
Pretty close.
Pretty close. Okay, so we've got a cross on the top. Okay, we've got a cross solved on the top right here. Now I'm starting to settle up the last 4 corners, and it's when I get to the very last bit that I've got the last 4 corners that we start to see what happens. And we're almost there. And we're almost not there. What happened here? All right, is that...
I should have known that I was asking a very visual person to talk about what they learned.
Yeah, right.
Well, maybe we can get, I don't know, Jess or Greg or James or Gina, do you guys have any reactions to Sherry's quotes while Dennis is solving the Rubik's Cube?
Okay, no, I got it.
Oh.
I got it.
There we go.
Okay, so I've got the corners here. These corners are all set up. Everything looks to you like, it's pretty clean through here, pretty clean across there. Okay, all I'm trying to solve is the last 4 corners. The whole thing looks like it's pretty organized. Here's the thing. Kind of like last week's analogy that I gave of going through the wave, that's what's going to happen next. We're going to need to go through something fairly significant to get to solved. We've got to mess this thing up first. So here we go. So you see how messy it got before I solved it? Could you guys see that? Or was it down too low?
I could see it. I was on the front row, and I thought he was literally messing it up again, and then all of a sudden it was done. It was very odd.
Applause.
So that ties in with our struggle, and our one step may just be that last step. You just never know how close you are to the whole thing falling into place exactly as it should.
And sometimes you got to make a mess to clean things up.
Well, and what I like is this notion that maybe it's the very last step that looks the messiest. right? Like just when you think, oh my gosh, everything is falling apart now, this is the end, that could be the last piece that has to fall into place so that everything works.
Yeah.
So.
I
Now, let me just
absolutely
say
have
to
to
anyone in
agree.
the audience that just watched that, if you're a cuber, reach out to me. I'm working on an HOA. If you know how to solve the cube in under 2 minutes, you need to private message me because you are going to want to be involved in this project. It'll be sometime in the fall, but yeah, if you can solve a cube in under 2 minutes, I want to hear from you. What's that face, Stephanie?
Are there people who can actually do that in under 2 minutes? Like,
I can do it
clearly
in
we're
under
not.
90 seconds consistently. If I'm not talking, I can do it under 90 seconds every single time, no matter who messes up the cube, no matter how messed up the cube is.
Okay, so yes, these are hidden talents that I was not aware of, Dennis. Thank you.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed. And, you know, I would say, too, at some point, it's the point where you also know that if you need somebody to hold your hand, it's really important to know who your network is. And more than which part of your network do you need to do that. Because sometimes all you need is somebody to go, yeah, that is a big mess. Keep going.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
to hand them the bucket and say, here, you help me clean this up. Because I don't know what to do now.
Yeah, or totally just go, okay, this is really a mess. I need to take a step back so that I can get perspective. And know that the whole idea of stepping back is not to walk away or to stop, but to gain a new look at exactly the same stuff that's there so you can solve your own Rubik's Cube in under 90 seconds. Might have taken you a long time to get there, but then it's consistent.
It took me about 9 months.
But I think that's the key to struggle, is being willing to step back, step sideways, ask for help, whatever it takes. Get yourself out of the feeling that I'm stuck in this struggle. There's always a shift you can make to help move through it, but it's making sure you take the step.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's an interesting thing because it's something that I was thinking about this week as I was struggling. The more I thought about how hard I was struggling, the harder it seemed like it was. And so I kept, I knew that I needed to get out of it and step back and all that, but sometimes it's really hard to get that perspective, right? Or to say to yourself, okay, now's the time to take a 10-minute break. So I don't know, does anybody have any kind of tried and true tips that work really well for that?
I do, and James will like this. It's a breathing technique. Believe it or not. Yeah.
Bring it on.
Yeah. So you can find tension in your body. So if you know honestly and truly, if you're in that place where there's this huge struggle and you're not quite ready to just give it up and see what happens yet, check in with your body. Just get your hands on your body somewhere and find where that tension is, and then just breathe into that place for a little while. And sometimes it'll surprise you. Sometimes you'll make kind of faces and sounds, and then sometimes, and eventually you'll actually move through that, and it'll be into a and when you get that then you're ready to look at what is in front of you again.
You're stealing my material from future shows here.
Or how about this? You can reuse this anytime you want, James.
Thank you.
We have 3 different kinds of breathing that we do in our house, and that happens to be one of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Excellent.
It's for that. So, oh yeah. What were you gonna say, Sandra?
Gina.
What I found with struggle in business is that it's unusual, but it's almost always better to step into it and hit it head on than back away from it. So, okay, you've got a problem, there's some whatever, unhappy customer, whatever, step into it, step forward right into that. And you'll find that, first of all, they're caught off guard, which is good, but you'll be able to deal with the problem. You want to know the problem ahead of time. I'll stop laughing, Dennis.
I'm laughing at Greg Trujillo's comment in the thread.
Yeah, so step forward. Do not step back. just hit it head on and say, yes, okay, and you can solve the problem. But if you back away, then your problem becomes even bigger. So step into it and just be strong.
I'll add to that whatever you're dealing with, especially if it's other people, are going to respect you far more if you stepped right into it than stepping away from it. You're going to earn tons of respect, even if the outcome doesn't come out as planned.
Absolutely.
The respect will be there.
You got it.
That's very cool. That's very cool.
Okay. So I was just reminded by my lovely wife of something that I was going to do on this show. See, along with this little charity venture, Stephanie Sims was the first to put up a big bid, and she put up the bid specifically for me to walk a lap without my hat on. Well, here's the thing. I didn't know that night was the same night as the state karaoke championship. And with 600 people at the bar, well, the Wi-Fi couldn't do what it had done when we ran our test the night before. And so you only got video of me, or audio, and only sometimes. As a result, well, I couldn't give her what she paid for. So, in honor of Stephanie and her absolutely amazing gift, as bad as my hair looks, I'm going hatless for the rest of the HOA. Just
wow! Nice!
I'll try and fix this up a little bit. Give me a second here, because that's really bad hat head.
We can both play with our hair, Dennis, if you want. It's okay. We'll all do it. Then we look good.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh boy, that is bad.
Thank you so much, because I have to say, Dennis was extremely cool about it, and already sent me a very cool picture. So this is double duty. Thank you, Dennis, and thank you, Cheryl. But I was happy to help out. It was a pleasure.
We were happy to have your help, so thank you.
And you look good without your hat, man. I don't know why you don't leave it off.
Well, because it's my brand, you know.
Well, I know.
Everybody thinks I don't have hair. They're like, you wear a hat because you're bald, right?
Right, exactly.
No, that's my little brother.
Oh.
Love you, Raj, if you're watching. Yeah, that was mean.
That's okay.
You wonder why my little brother isn't actually on the show. Okay.
You know, something that Gina said, I drink in my tea, I've got these yogi tea fortunes, and it made me go, oh, this is perfect. And that is, it's not life that matters, it's the courage that we bring to it. And I think that's the strength and hitting it head on that she was talking about, the courage piece. And courage can be hard to come by sometimes, and I actually think that's a pretty big part of struggle, is where do we get that courage to take the next step?
We get it from ourselves. It comes from inside. Yeah. So, or whatever, the universe, whatever you want, whatever you believe. But anyways, it comes from inside, and it's there, and it's strong, and you're strong enough to do it, so do it.
That's right. And that's where a friend or somebody that's holding your hand can help you. They can share their energy with us when we need it, and that is huge to me, to take that next step when we can't do it by ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
sure
and
I'm sure we've heard this quote before, but as a trainer, I use it all the time. Courage is not the lack of fear. Courage is having fear and doing it anyway.
That's right.
Yep.
I love that, Jimmy.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think you find the strength by looking backwards. What has history shown me about myself? It's shown me that I've had other struggles, and I have made it through. And so I can make it through this one. I will find a way again. That's something I know about myself. So if you look back and just recognize that you've done it before in other areas, in other ways.
Yeah, and it's very interesting that you mentioned that, Sherry, because my son plays tennis, and so we read a lot of training and how to use the mental side of the game. And that's one of the techniques that they teach you, is to keep your confidence up. Instead of when you make a mistake, you say, oh, I'm just a crap player, I'm never going to get this. You say, that's not like me. Normally I hit balls like that. Normally I'm able to do this. History has shown, like Sherry says, that I'm good at this. So, don't let me focus on the one time things didn't go right. Let's focus on what I normally do. And then this was just kind of an aberration. It was just the exception to the rule. So I love that.
Yeah. I agree with both of you. I think it's very important. Okay, let's just take tennis, for example. It's a mind game. It really is. If you think you can't do it and that guy's better than me, well, you are going to lose. So just use your mind, and that's what you got it for. So anyways, it will make you strong and stronger. So believe in yourself and do what it takes, whatever, yoga, tai chi, whatever it takes, to build that mind-body strength. But it comes together and makes it all happen.
What is that going on in the background there, Gina?
Oh, it's the birds again. I'm sorry. Do I have to mute myself? It's starting.
It's kind of cool. I mean, I don't know if you realize this, Jess and Greg, but Gina lives on the island of Dominica in the Caribbean, and internet is lousy. We often can't even get enough signal to see her face, and we always have like frogs or yeah.
Sorry about that. That's right.
No worries. I don't know if there's a way. I've been thinking about this. Obviously, it's been on my mind this whole week. But I don't know that I'm at a point where I can actually change my perception of struggle to make it an opportunity in the moment, like Sherry said. But has anybody had success doing that, or is it more you have to kind of get to the other side and then you're able to appreciate what it brought to you?
Well, for me, it's actually something that I've been able to teach myself. Growing up, I've always looked at the negative side of things, what could go wrong, to the extreme, and I was always really depressed and really sad about everything because there was really no way out. There was no chance. Everything was dismal, and there was no point in trying for anything. And as I faced more struggles and more difficult struggles in my life, I've learned to take that analytical side of me that looked at all of the negative and still look at the negative, but weigh it against that's my worst possible that could happen. Now, what's my best? And if I land somewhere in the middle, I think I've turned it around. And so it's always about not at what you have and thinking about all the bad things that could come of that when you are struggling, but looking at what you have and what you could have if you turn it around. And that gives me at least a little bit more inspiration and confidence in myself in order to look at other options. And I'm very much a think outside the box person. And not only will I think outside the box, I question the reality of the box to its entirety. So, I try to look deep and find a lot of different solutions. I'm a debugger for programming by training, but I also think that I take the same application and apply it to everyday life.
I love that you said that you can teach yourself, and I believe that too. And I think, I think I've been able to do that coming from an environment where that wasn't probably the primary focus. Been able to shift that too. So yes, you can teach yourself.
It's very difficult to teach yourself. The very first thing that I understood when I was able to start teaching myself new skills like this was becoming aware of what you're doing that actually puts you into that type of fearful state. When we are facing our struggles, we all worry about what can go wrong and what is going wrong or what has gone wrong. But if we look at that and focus on it, it's really going to tear us down. And you just have to, open yourself to the fact that you're doing it to yourself. A lot of these things, like Gina said, it's a head game. It's really just you defeating yourself before you even started to try. So you need to look at it from a different standpoint, and don't defeat yourself because you're going to be the #1 person that does it. When other people start seeing what you're doing, they're going to support you, especially if they know you and if they care about you. The others that don't support you and hate on it, it's really because they're jealous that you've found the courage in order to step out and do it, and they haven't reached that place yet. So don't let them drag you down as well. Like I said, just think about it like they haven't gotten there yet. They're going to get there one day, and move forward.
I love
Greg,
that.
you hit it right on the head. During training with my clients, I cannot tell you how many times, I mean hundreds of times a day even, I have clients saying to me, I can't do this, I can't do this. And my response is always, you can't do this because you're telling yourself you can't do this. That's the reason why.
Right.
Stop telling
That's
yourself that.
Have you ever thought about having a tantrum? This is one thing that I'm actually learning this. I have a 3-year-old. We have really, really big emotions in our house on occasion. And I'm actually learning something in the sense that we unlearn how to have emotions. And how cool would it be to just be mad and stand in your office and stomp around for 2 or 5 minutes and then feel better when you're done? And the whole thing shifts. It changes shape. You can move on and do other things, but to actually own the emotion. Yeah, I'm whatever I am. I'm mad. I'm frustrated. And if it's so-and-so did this or this happened to me, okay, those aren't emotions, but there are emotions under them that need to be defined to have that emotion, and then be able to let go, because it is a clearing. It's a clearing of the space in a sense.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, just because I think that's this notion of what you should do is a big enemy. Like for me, I know that gets me every time. Like I set the to-do list and I say by Friday I should have done. And so even if I accomplished a bunch of stuff, I look at the list and I see, here's what I didn't do.
Yeah.
And so it's not that anybody else was saying you have to do this or whatever. It's just my own disappointment in not, living up to this imagined ideal or should that I had. And so, yeah, if we could do a better job maybe of adjusting what we expect of ourselves so that it's more reasonable, and then when we fall short, like you said, just let it out, right? Like, I am so unhappy right now, or, in our house we try to blow raspberries because otherwise you got a hand with 3 kids. It can just go wrong if you let people stomp around and throw things. But,
That's true.
If you just get until you feel better.
I was just going to say, Jess, I absolutely love you. But I'm not quite so certain that my sisters and my wife. See, I never unlearned how to throw a tantrum.
Oh, well then then in my opinion you're a lucky one. Completely honest.
Yeah, but those who are around
The people around.
Don't feel it that way.
Well, okay, then there's the space where the people that are around need to be like, you're in our space too, get out, because that's self-respect in that sense, and we're also learning that. Yeah, you can have a tantrum over there. You can't have a tantrum right here.
I've been on the front row of a couple of them, and it was me that got out. I didn't tell them to have it over there. I was like, I'm going over here.
Well, good for you, James, because there's that too. You know what I mean, though? But I think it's great to be able to feel your emotions, and it sounds like they're doozies, Dennis.
I like that. That's good, Jess.
So I just want to say at this point, no one can ever accuse me of not just throwing it out there and being authentic. Yep, I got a temper.
That's
There you
true.
go. The whole world knows.
That's true.
Yeah.
And I am working on it. I'm trying to learn how to not be so,
But don't you think that's also part of the process? There's lots of people who have a temper and will swear that they don't, right?
That's true.
So there you are. You've made some progress, Dennis. Don't get down on yourself.
And that's the other thing
right.
that goes back to what Stephanie, you were saying earlier about when you're in the moment, how do you change direction? And I think the first thing is to know you're in it. And sometimes you can't change direction. You just can go down the path knowing and looking at it from a different perspective. You actually get to look at yourself seeing this, and you can actually see yourself objectively from the outside in at some point, which then I think at least for me, allowed me to get to where Greg is at and being able to go, okay, so what was that trigger? But until I recognized it in it and I could see myself doing it, there was no way I was going to be able to identify a trigger because of the crazy emotions that go through my head or the way I rationalize it in the stories I tell myself after. And I think that's one of the biggest things with struggle is what are the stories that we're telling ourselves that inadvertently limit us?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Yeah, for me.
Oh, go ahead, Gina.
Well, what I was going to say is when I have a difficult situation, I try to handle it professionally, head on, and then, deal with it. And then when I go home, I work out like a maniac because it releases the stress that I wanted to take out on this person. And Jimmy, you might like this. But anyways, it just helps me to deal with whatever problem I was going through. I can be very professional. Oh, yes, okay, that's your problem. Okay, all right. And then I go home and I'm like lifting weights like crazy. So, anyways, works for me.
I have to really agree with that. The way that I usually look at kind of everything that exists is there's a balance between good and bad, and you're going to have nearly an equal amount of good emotions as you are bad emotions, or what I would call positive energy and negative energy, and they both have their uses. It just depends on what you choose to have the most interaction with and how you choose to dissipate the other energy. If you have a lot of negative energy, working out helps to get rid of that energy. Doing physical activities or really any activity helps to get rid of that negative energy, and that gives you more room to enjoy the positive energy that you have.
So just a general question out there, if we're professional and we walk away and we do something about it, are we really being true to our own heart? Or do we need to come up with a way to actually be professional and honest and, even though it might hurt, tell the truth?
Well,
I don't like this. I am hurt by this.
You should never
This makes me
sacrifice.
frustrated.
You should never sacrifice the truth for comfortability, in my opinion, which I tend to
Or
have
social connection.
a lot of people that get very upset with me because I am incredibly blunt, and I've always been taught growing up that the truth is extremely important and that people will respect you more for being truthful, but honestly I've learned that the more truthful you are, the more angry you make people, because everybody's been trained to go around and not tell people the facts and reality, and the industry that I'm in, having to tell people, like, okay, when I do an SEO evaluation, I say, well, the SEO on your site is terrible. I mean, that's really bad news. A lot of people might try and rephrase that and say, well, your SEO could use improvements and this and that. And I give a real scale. I don't say things like needs improvements. I say non-existent or, half-baked SEO attempts. And, I tell people really what it is that I see so that they can understand. If they hate me for it, they hate me for it. But business-wise, I've gotten a very good response. Personal, I seem to get some friction. But
and I have the exact
one of
opposite,
my biggest
which is really interesting because I love it. I think that's great that you shared that. I know for me, when I have to be true to my heart, when things are, and it doesn't matter, business or personal, to me, it's all the same. It's people to people, and I care about everybody that's in my life. So for me, it's always like this. And if it's like this enough, I end up sitting down and I'll end up crying. Because I'm not sure of the words I should say, and I will break down in tears and not be able to communicate what I need to communicate, except for that I am hurting.
Right.
Which is interesting, but real, and honoring me to be able to walk away and think about things a little bit differently. But it also, I'd hope someday before I die I don't cry in that endeavor, but this is part of my unlearning and relearning a new thing. Who I want to be, what I want to show up, and how I want to respect others in their lives as well as those that I choose to have in mine.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned that, just because I kind of had the same reaction. Even if at least for me, I've been in situations where I knew that it was justified, right? Like I knew that they weren't doing what I'd asked them to, they weren't respecting their deadlines, whatever. But the problem is that when you get that anger and that frustration, it's almost like you can't. For me, the only reaction that came was tears, right? It hasn't happened to me in a long time, but I, and it's frustration almost. It's you just don't know what to say because you can't imagine that they can't understand your point of view. And yeah, I think maybe it's just a personality thing that some people have to process a little more
It could be
before we're able to communicate. I don't know.
Well, and actually, I don't really want people to know. I don't want to ever do anything that's going to hurt somebody because I'm being true to myself. And in the moments that I cry, I feel I am going to be really hurting the other person more than me. And I feel a little selfish. In that.
Yeah, and that's true, because then it's harder to express that if you think it's going to hurt somebody's feelings. I get that.
Yeah. Which is weird and hard, and so you think about struggle, but what comes out of that? I used to go to a vice, but James was talking about that, and I thought that was really cool. So what is that trigger, or what is that then emotional response that keeps you on that wrong? And wrong is not the right word. On a wheel you may not wish to be on, right? Whether that's food, whether that's extreme anything, whether that's it doesn't even doesn't really matter. So I don't know where I was going. It went in a bubble and floated away.
You were just talking about the vice. Yeah, talking about the vice and the fact that while we have these coping mechanisms, that's kind of how I look at them. We have to be careful with them because they can become a vice as well, right? If all of a sudden the only way that you can handle the stress of your job is to, exercise 5 hours a night, that's probably not necessarily good for your body. So.
Right. Or the rest of the relationships in your life, really.
Right, exactly. And
it depends on what you're trading it out for.
Right.
Like James was saying, when you get rid of one vice, you need to make sure you're replacing it. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to lose the vice, and also you need to make sure that the replacement is a much healthier version than the previous.
And the biggest frustration comes right before a breakthrough. So I actually look at anger, frustration, tears, whatever that is, and I'm like, oh, where am I going? And then it's a little bit fearful. Do I stay where I'm at because I'm okay and I know this, or do I actually break through and go into this new place that I have no concept of what it's going to feel like, what it's going to look like, or how the rest of the world is going to react to me? Because I'm me and I care about that, which is weird, but a very true thing. And there's a sense of, there's a sense of self in that too, and our own personal. Are we ready for what comes next, or are we going to continue to have the same pattern because we're not?
Yeah, it's very funny because I was jumping over to see the comments, and Phil, shout out to Phil, woo, and to everybody else who's in the audience that we haven't shouted out yet. But Phil says, I really think we should be more like kids. Embrace our tantrums, go outside and play, scream and yell for absolutely no reason, be silly, and take naps.
Beautiful, Phil. I love it.
I love it.
That is the quote of the show, I think.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
So maybe we should just wrap it up with that.
I don't want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
Well, I don't know. Does anybody have any closing thoughts?
I think.
Well, Go ahead.
Yeah, I think. I think we're at a great point. We are slightly over the 1 hour mark, which had a late start anyway. Greg is about to lose his battery, and so we definitely are going to lose him shortly. So I think let's quickly go through his last thoughts, and of course we want to extend the conversation. Please, as an audience, jump in. Lightning round is starting right now. What is it that you saw ended up? Obviously, the planned theme was struggle, but what ended up serendipitously becoming? Really, Cheryl? She just said, "Who let Dennis do sing?" What ended up being our theme? That's how we play lightning round on this show. It's the audience's. It's a conversation. What did you guys see that kind of popped up unplanned as an underlying note? Now, that being said, Greg, I'm going to go down the path. We're going to go this way. We're going to go Greg so that we catch him before his battery dies. Then we're going to go Jess. Then we're going to go Stephanie. Then we're going to go Gina. And then we'll go to you, James, and I'll say goodnight.
All right. So,
All right.
I guess final thoughts on struggle. Well, right now my computer's struggling with the battery power, but as they've said before, a lot of it seems. I know they say the quote "darkest before dawn," but that's not really accurate because it's not darkest before dawn. There's actually a point in time that it's darker before the moment before dawn. But anyways, the fact is it really does seem really hard before it starts to get better. I'm in my current job right now because Carolyn Capern decided she'd take a chance on me working with me previously and start as my business partner after both of us had been abruptly laid off from our previous marketing jobs, and I was just really picking myself up off the ground from that point. I'd been homeless previously and working 2 different retail jobs and still not making ends meet, and once I got this marketing job, everything was going well, we were doing great, and then the job just ended, and with my last $200, my choice was, do I go back and try and get 2 more retail jobs that aren't going to be able to sustain my my living, or I can try and make a business with Carolyn doing what we were doing at our previous firm. And we bet on ourselves, and we faced our fear head on, and we started this, and 2 years later, we're going with every minute.
And that's the end of his battery. It is done struggling. And so we are ready to hear from Jessica. Take it away.
Take it away. I think I would say when I think about struggle, there are 2 things that come to mind that are really near and dear to my heart. And they happen to be products of our universe right here on Earth. The first one is a pearl. We can't get pearls without sand inside of a clam. That is this thing that's like rocks in our shoes. And so how cool is it that something that is a rock in somebody's shoe can come out so beautiful on the other side that is appreciated and loved? The other one that I also love are things like sapphires. Yeah, I like diamonds and I like everything else, but I really like sapphires. And any of those gems, what has to happen? Pressure and raw and all the stuff with the earth that makes them appear, and then somehow then we dig to them and we find them and we shape them and we see how sparkly they are. So we really can't become who we're supposed to be and have the sparkle and the radiance that we have without that struggle. And we will never end. So I never want struggle to end because I will quit. I will quit learning and I will lose my luster. So that would be the challenge. Is struggle is good. Radiance, brilliance.
Very good.
Applause.
Thanks.
You're up, Stephanie.
Okay, so I agree, obviously, with everything that Jess and Greg both said about the fact that it's important, even when it's uncomfortable, to deal with the struggle that's going on in your lives. And I don't know, to me, I keep maybe it's just because I like the word, but I keep trying to think about it in terms of ability. Like, I have the ability to get through this. I have, let me develop an ability to manage my frustration. Let me develop an ability to remain calm in the face of all these things that are happening. And to me, that kind of gives me the right image. At a certain point, you need to have the right tool for handling a given situation. And so, let's create some more abilities here. Now my ability to deal with people who are slow in the grocery line is better, or something like that. So I think it's really hard, and I think that it's important. It's very important to have someone not only to help you be accountable, but someone who can share and understand the burden of what you're struggling with. And that's where, I always bring it back because I've had so much Google Plus Kool-Aid. But, that's where I've really been blessed to meet everyone that I've met here, in the communities I am part of, and here on this HOA, and just more globally, anyone that I'm connected with on the platform. It's really helped me do things that I never thought I would be able to do. And so if you haven't in any way interacted with me in the last 6 months, I just want to say thank you. You may not have known what you did for me, but you really did help me. And that, I don't know, I can't say enough about how important that is for everybody. So, when you're out there interacting with people, just remember, a nice comment, hey, I really liked what you did. It may mean not a lot for you, but it can be an amazing lift for somebody who's really having a crappy week.
Applause.
They're coming.
All right.
Gina, parting thoughts.
All right, party thoughts. Okay, so a struggle is part of business. We have to deal with it. And it's the way you deal with it that determines the outcome. So if you deal with it like, oh my God, well, that's your outcome. But if you deal with it in a positive light, okay, so here is something I have learned, and someone didn't like whatever, it's important to take in that information, process it, and then either change whatever you're doing or not change it. But it's a very important part. Struggle is a very important part, because what happens is, at least for me, I can only speak for myself, is that you come out stronger and you have a better idea of what you should be doing or not, but it gives you another frame of reference. And so it gives you another chance to observe what you're doing and do it differently if needs be. So I think struggle, although it's extremely difficult, is a very good part of building a strong business. So don't be afraid of it. Accept it, embrace it, and use it to learn and grow. So that's what Gina thinks.
Gina!
It's hard to go last. You guys cover everything. Feel all the stuff. Word for word, a bit of it from each of you, word for word, what I would say. Well, I already bragged a little bit about doing a marathon tomorrow, so I'm going to talk about that a little bit. First of all, if it was easy, everybody would do it, right? Well, so it's not easy. There's a select group of people that are going to do it. And 26.2 miles, okay? There's obviously going to be a struggle somewhere in there, or quite a bit of it. And if you don't accept that that struggle is coming, and as Gina said, if you don't accept it and embrace it, then you're going to fail. So that struggle's coming. I'm aware of it. When marathoners talk about it, the word is pain instead of struggle, but they're interchangeable. And that pain/struggle is coming. You know it. There is no way around it. If you want to finish it, you've got to deal with it. Get to the other side. That's all.
And there we go. It's a little difficult to switch between cameras within an app. So here's my thought. I really like everything you've said. So look back on what everyone else has been saying.
Objects in mirror are larger or whatever.
Yeah. And, you know, I want to add to that, though. I think it's really important that we do look back seriously and learn from the experiences we've had, and then use that to chart our course as we move forward. So,
Absolutely.
help with object lesson.
Well spoken.
All right, so now I'm gonna. This is where I belong. Someday you'll see this in reality, not just made up.
My people of New York, I implore you.
Exactly.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on Network Roundtable this week. Thank you, Jess, so much for being here. And, you know, as we were talking in the green room, I really look forward to working with you and seeing what might come in our future. I think there's some interesting things that might be happening.
Interesting things. And I've had a really good time. Thanks for inviting me here today and making me smile and think about some maybe heart-wrenching things at the same time, but all in all, with friends and support that you know where you know. I know who I'm going to call.
Yep. Friends and family, right?
That's right. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we're going to take you out with a little more. Who do we got here? 5-State Killing Spree. This is Victim Once by 5-State Killing Spree. They're one of the Bandwidth bands, and we will see you all next week. And please join us Sunday afternoon for the final closing auction. Put in your bids on these lovely shoes. We know you want them on your bookshelves. See you later.
Thank you guys so much.